If you grew up with a stepmother, you probably learned very early that there is no single story about what that word means. In fairy tales, she is simple, the villain. In real life, she is often something much stranger and quieter. A person standing between you and your father, between you and your childhood, between who you were and who you have to become. Sometimes she is kind. Sometimes she is cruel. Sometimes she is both in the same week. What it feels like to live in that space is hard to explain, but I want to try through a few different stories. In the first story, there is a girl away at university in another city. One week, she gets really sick, the kind of sick that doesn't go away with sleep and hot tea. She drags herself to the hospital alone, pays for IV fluids and medicine with what little money she has, and goes back to her dorm to recover. She doesn't tell her family at first. Maybe she doesn't want them to worry. Maybe she already knows they won't help. Later, when she's feeling a little stronger, she mentions it on the phone. Her stepmother explodes, not with concern, but with anger. She and the girl's father get on a train and show up at the campus. They don't bring food or money or comfort. They bring one message: pack your things, you're coming home. The girl refuses. Maybe for the first time, she chooses school and her own life over her stepmother's control. After that, something breaks. Her stepmother stops picking up her calls, hangs up when she sees her number. The allowance that was already painfully small, barely enough for a month in a Western city, the kind of money you have to supplement with part-time jobs, disappears completely. In her first year of college, it had been the same. Almost no support, constant lectures about learning to stand on your own feet, and every time she went back to her father's house, the door would be locked. She would pound on it, call out, and no one would answer. In the end, she would walk to her grandmother's and sleep on the couch. Now she is a second-year student, with rent, tuition, and food to figure out. When she has nothing left, no cash, no way to pay the next semester, she calls her father. He tells her, gently but firmly, "You have to ask your stepmother. I can't hide money from her." He is more afraid of his wife than he is concerned for his daughter. That is how it quietly feels sometimes to have a stepmother. Like the person you love most in the world is standing behind her saying, "I'm sorry, my hands are tied." In another story, the script begins almost the same and ends very differently. A girl loses her biological mother when she is 3. Her father remarries 3 years later. Her new stepmother moves in with 2 daughters of her own. From the outside, it looks exactly like the start of a cruel fairy tale. Widowed father, fragile little girl, stepmother, stepsisters. At 6 years old, she is terrified. She hides in a corner during the first meal after the wedding, knees pulled up to her chest, convinced that any minute now she will be yelled at, mocked, or pushed aside. Instead, she hears a soft voice. "Why are you hiding over there? Aren't you hungry? Come eat." She peeks out. Her stepmother is smiling, holding out a plate. No sharpness, no disgust, just an invitation. The girl is confused. This is not how it goes in the stories. She shuffles over, still on guard, and sits down. Her stepmother hands her utensils and says, "After dinner, go play with your sisters. There are toys in the other room." It is small, but it is the first tiny crack in what she thought stepmother meant. Over the years that followed, this woman goes to work early every morning, comes home tired at night, and still sits at the table to help 3 girls with their homework. The girl calls her aunt at first. The stepmother never corrects her, never pushes for mom. She just smiles. When there is money for clothes, she buys for all 3. When there is a treat, they share it. When the girl goes off to high school and lives in a dorm, the allowance is the same for all 3, not a cent less for the child who is not biologically hers. They were not rich. Some birthdays were just a small cake and a home-cooked meal. Later, when the family did a little better, birthdays meant dinner at a restaurant. Every year there was something, a card, a cake, a reminder that her existence mattered. The girl, now older, realizes her stepmother never once made her feel like a guest. never once hinted that she was extra. When she lands in the hospital with a serious illness, her stepmother takes time off work and sits by her bed, refilling water, adjusting blankets, calling nurses. One day, overcome with emotion, the girl asks, "Why are you so good to me?" Her stepmother shrugs and says the simplest sentence, "Because you're just a child." In that moment, her chest tightens. She is not this woman's blood. She is not an obligation in any legal sense, and yet here she is, being loved. Inside, she wants to say, "Mom." The word sits heavy on her tongue. She has not said it yet. Maybe she is afraid it will hurt her biological mother's memory. Maybe she is afraid it will make everything too real. But the desire is there, soft and aching. In a third story, the word stepmother means something much darker. This woman cannot have children of her own. The pain twists inward instead of healing. She becomes obsessed with controlling other people's kids. For a period of time, a child goes to live with her and the girl's father. On the outside, the stepmother is perfect. In front of neighbors and relatives, she speaks sweetly to the child, presses money into her hand, and calls her "my dear." But the money is a trap. If the girl dares to spend it, the stepmother tells the father she is wasteful and disobedient. Punishment follows. Behind closed doors, it is worse. The stepmother erupts in anger over nothing. A misplaced object, a spill, a look she doesn't like. She hisses threats. "If you cross me, I'll beat you to death." When she and the father argue, the stepmother punishes the child by withholding food. Plates are set on the table for everyone else. The child's chair stays empty. She watches and learns hunger.
Cousins who come to visit think it will be fun to play together. They discover quickly that the stepmother's cruelty is not limited to one child. If their uncle puts a little extra food in their bowl, the stepmother pinches him under the table when she thinks no one is looking. The message is clear: your generosity belongs to me. Out in the world, everyone calls her a saint. She took on a man with a child, they say. How kind she is to that girl. No one believes the truth. The child starts to feel like she is losing her mind. Is it really that bad if no one else sees it? Eventually, she leaves. Maybe she moves out. Maybe she goes no contact. However it happens, she escapes. And from a distance, she looks back and says, with all the anger that was never allowed to exist in that house, they deserve each other. It is a bitter, necessary sentence. Sometimes that is how it quietly feels to have a stepmother, like you are stuck in the middle of someone else's unresolved rage, wearing a mask in public, walking on eggshells at home. The fourth story is softer and more complicated. Here, a girl has two stepmothers across her life. The first one is an incredible cook. The girl comes home from long days at work, shoulders tight, feet aching, and the smell of dinner hits her as soon as she opens the door. Rich stews, crispy potatoes, warm bread. She sits down and feels her whole body relax. She eats until she is full in a way that feels almost spiritual. During the 3 years this woman is married to her father, the girl gains weight, not out of sadness, but because she finally feels fed, in every sense. After the girl graduates from college, every visit home means another weekend of comfort food that makes it hard to leave again. Her father and this stepmother even start a business together. It fails, not because they don't care, but because their ways of handling money and making decisions clash. Arguments pile up. Eventually, they split. The girl cries when she hears. She is losing more than a stepmother, she is losing a home base. Later, when the stepmother's own daughter gets into college, the girl secretly sends her money for living expenses. "If you ever run out, just ask," she tells her. "Don't be shy." The younger girl never asks. She turns down extra cash, accepts only holiday envelopes. There is pride and dignity there. The tie holds even after the marriage ends. The second stepmother is completely different. She cooks simple, healthy meals. Lots of vegetables, low salt, no heavy sauces. To the girl, used to rich flavors, it tastes almost bland. Her father, though, benefits. Before this marriage, he loved greasy food and alcohol. He had a beer belly, high blood pressure, bad cholesterol. He didn't take care of himself. Cooking for himself felt like too much effort. After marrying this quiet, health-obsessed woman, he eats whatever she makes. It is easier that way. Over 2 years, he stops drinking, loses weight, and his lab numbers improve. One day she says, half laughing, half proud, "In all these years, he's the first person who eats my food and says he enjoys it." For her, cooking has always been an expression of care. For him, it becomes a path back to health. This time, the father is careful not to mix money and business with his new partner. He has learned. They share bills, but keep their finances cleaner. The daughter watches and thinks, he is smarter now, less naive. Behind all of this is the shadow of the girl's biological mother who died when she was young. In her memory, her mother is always thin, always sick, with cold, pale hands that never fully warmed in hers. Near the end, the girl took time off school to stay by her hospital bed. One night her mother said, "Come sleep next to me." She climbed into the narrow bed, feeling her mother's bones under the thin gown, the hiss of machines in the background. Not long after, a medical emergency came, and she was ushered out. When she came back, her mother was gone. Her father sold what he could, borrowed from anyone who could help, tried every treatment he could afford, and it still wasn't enough. After the funeral, he did not cry in front of her. He said quietly, "I did everything I could. Your mother just had a hard fate." For years he stayed alone, drowning in debts and grief. Only when his daughter got into college did he start looking for companionship again. Each woman he let into his life, his daughter tried her best to welcome. She understood that whoever was kind to him, whoever showed up and cooked and stayed, deserved to be loved back. Taken together, these stories show how wide the word stepmother stretches. For some, she is a gatekeeper to basic resources: money, shelter, love. For others, she is a surprise source of safety, someone who shows that family can be built, not just born. For some, she is a secret abuser, smiling in public, cruel in private. For others, she is a gentle force nudging a father toward healthier food and a longer life. And for the children in the middle, the feelings are rarely loud. They are quiet, confusing, layered with guilt and longing. You can feel abandoned by your father and angry at your stepmother at the same time. You can feel grateful to one stepmother and still ache for the mother you lost. You can want to run away and also want, more than anything, to be invited back home. You can live in a house where everyone calls this person mom and still hesitate to let the word pass your own lips. From the outside, people will simplify your story. She's lucky to have a stepmother who stayed. She's unlucky to have a stepmother like that. Inside, it never feels that simple. If you grew up with a stepmother, your job is not to fit your story into anyone else's script. Your experience is allowed to be mixed. You are allowed to love your stepmother fiercely. You are allowed to walk away for your own sanity. You are allowed to hold both your gratitude and your anger in the same body. None of that makes you disloyal to your real mother, whoever that is for you. And if you are a stepmother, or you love someone who is, remember this: you are stepping into a story that began before you arrived. You cannot erase their pain, or their memories, or their fear, but you can choose to be the person who does not make them pay for your own wounds. You can choose to be clear, fair, and kind in small, consistent ways. You can choose to be the one who says, "Because you are just a child," and means it, not as an insult, but as a promise that at least in this house, they are allowed to be taken care of. In the quiet psychology of stepfamilies, love rarely shows up as a grand speech. It shows up as who unlocks the door when you ring the bell, who comes to your hospital bed, who pushes a plate of food toward you, who picks up the phone when you have nothing left. That is how it quietly feels to have a stepmother, like living in the space between what stories told you she would be and the complicated human woman she actually is.